Welcome to Skeptic versus Believer. I'm your host, Allan Gilbreth, and I am here with definitely a bunch of conspirators. Welcome, Brandon Olmsted, Alissa Diggs, Scott J. Carroll, and producer Max. And, you know, the first topic I'm going to throw out, and I'm just probably going to say something, and then 30 minutes from now I'm going to close the show, because I'm going to say, what are we trying to be convinced of? How many shows can there be on television and at all about ancient aliens, things in the sky, stuff running loose, of
ghosts?
I'm just gonna pick on just recent posts.
I'll tell you, doesn't matter what that number is. Will be one more.
Absolutely. But we're going to pick on them.
The better one. And that's the best one.
So, all right, well, let's just go with, I'm going to pick on, a friend of mine a few weeks ago sent me Batman. And I don't mean, no. They were just like, this is in Brazil. And they had a close-up picture of obviously a very diminutive, some variety of bat.
Right. Okay.
And because it was close to the camera, forced perspective, it looks very large. And then you see something like the camera backs out or changes perspective, and something man-sized blows out the far side. And everybody was, all freaked out that, man bat was loose in São Paulo, Brazil.
That's just Dave.
And
he does that sometimes.
My point of view was, okay, if you look at the bone structure perspective of the first critter, there is nothing about this creature that says it weighs more than a pound. It's small. It's delicate. Everything about it looks small and delicate. And the thing that came flying out the far side of the bush is, to my eyes immediately, just from hanging out at the zoo, some form of simian that is indigenous to the area. Because it did not come blowing out like it was going to take off flying. It was just going from one tree to the other. So I'm kind of like, all right, this is cute, but your attention is being forced into assuming that creature A was also creature B. Right. And it ain't. And I love to point out, no creature in the Amazon has exclusive rights to a tree. So just because you saw something on one side does not mean that is what came sailing out the other side.
One of our favorite things to do at the house is we'll find those compilation videos of, here's a spooky thing, here's footage that viewers sent in, and 9 times out of 10, it's a Ring doorbell and it's a bug. Or because of the night vision on the camera, you'll see somebody walking and then they disappear. Well, that's a default of the camera. When you've got night vision, lower resolution lens, and it's trying to compensate for stuff in the distance. And we'll watch those videos and we'll figure out ways of how there's very few of those that we look at and we go, oh man, I don't know.
See, I love those, which is Slapped Ham.
Yeah, that's one of the ones we watch.
I love Allan.
That guy.
He seems so excited about introducing these videos to you, but he never says definitely one way or the other what this is. He kind of leaves it to you, but he leads you in the direction of it being.
He's putting a
spooky.
force on it,
right. But one of the things I've always loved about it is that you can watch these and go, man, that would be spooky if this wasn't an easy explanation. And nowadays, though, the quote-unquote debunker crowd, the skeptics, as you will, are now hitting it like, these channels are perpetuating a hoax, and it's got like Top 5 and Slapped Ham and stuff like that. It's like, no, they're not. There's nobody trying to get one over on you. So even the debunkers are now getting to the point where they're trying to make it a conspiracy about these other videos. But I love watching those, especially when it's 2 hours that will make you not want to use a Ring doorbell.
Oh yeah, those.
Yeah, because you've got like the gremlin.
Mm-hmm.
You see the little feet, but that's and the shade and it disappears, and then it like shows back up over here. And yeah, you're right. It's like those cameras, and especially in those first gen Ring cameras, they sucked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The only way you really saw something is if that was that bug that was coming across it, and then someone's like, "Oh my god!" But it's like the new ones. All the videos you get are your porch pirate tripping as he's trying to run away with your package.
Yeah, I do give him credit because he's one of the ones we watch, and
entertaining.
He'll tell a story with it, and he's not trying to say definitively this is what it is. Right. He's letting the story breathe and letting you make your own decisions.
Yeah,
and then he says, "Hey, comment what you think." So people argue in the comments, and the algorithm boosts it. But a lot of his videos will sit and watch and go, okay, I can explain that one. I can explain this one. This one maybe not so much, but we'll try to figure it out.
And what's great is that they will, over the point of the segment on that one video, they will replay that video enough times that you can figure out what's going on. It's not just a quick, okay, now I got to rewind the YouTube video back. Screw that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. And my filmmaker brain watches it a few times and goes, okay, I see where the cut was. I see where this one is a fake. But then, the weird person that shows up at 2 a.m. on the Ring doorbell.
And licks the doorbell for 2 hours.
Yeah, that one's true.
That's true, and it's creepy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you know which video I'm talking about. That guy.
That guy.
There was a universal opinion right there.
Look, we've all.
I'm sorry if you. I'm just trying to figure out how he had the 2 hours.
People send the clips in.
Just don't.
You mean the guy who sat there for 2 hours?
Literally, I mean, he had 2 hours. I mean, let's face it. Who's got 2 hours? Welcome to Skeptic versus Believer. And I believe that Brandon, Alissa, and Scott have all agreed that paranormal via the Ring camera or whatever it is in the front is a little dubious at best. Of my best Ring camera story is a friend said they were hearing noises in their attic.
Yeah.
And so they went and got one and put it on the front. And a day or two later, she comes literally running at me, coming down the hall with her phone and said, "Oh my God." And she plays the video, and of course it's night, and there's no cars, nothing, very calm. And then at the bottom of the screen, you see the rodent nose. And a rat the size of a small dog proceeded to the camera going up towards the attic. And she is just, "Why? What?" And I'm like, "Well, what you got in the attic?" "There's nothing up there. All we keep up there is our holiday decorations." And I went like, "Halloween decorations?" She goes, "Well, we got the fall decorations with the corn stalks."
Oh.
And I went, "What you have now is a rodent buffet."
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying, a security camera hanging on the front of your door is a bad idea, but it's hardly conclusive proof that that shadowy thing going down the sidewalk across the street is Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's.
Oh, I mean, it could be, though.
Wow.
Because, I mean, we've seen some really weird things walking down the sidewalks in this city.
There was a legend
He's on
of a
vacation.
man. There's a legend of a man named Charlie No Face, and the legend was that he would walk around at night and he would just try to do bad things to people. Well, it turns out that he had an injury early on in his life and his face got deformed, and because he didn't want to scare people to leave his house, the only time he could go out would be at night.
Right.
So people would see him and they would try to run him off the road. They would try to hurt him. And this guy didn't really do anything to anybody. And eventually there was a news article about him. And he would charge people to take some pictures with him. And he would try to be mostly reclusive. but it was the legend of this weird guy that just kept perpetuating, and it changed every time it went on. And what you had reminded me of, Allan, was talking about videos. The other thing people talk about a lot of time is pictures. They'll say, "Oh, I took this picture, and I swear this person wasn't behind me when I took this picture." Mm-hmm. And have any of you ever been to a place like a fair or Disney?
Oh, yeah.
Or outdoors in any way, shape, or form?
How any picture or selfie you take, somehow, some way, oh my God, that guy was looking directly into my camera. No, he was just walking past. You caught it at the right time.
If you're taking the picture or you're the person in the picture, your sole focus is the entirety of this picture. You're not aware of the people around you for that.
And I mean, and in today's technically advanced society where everybody's got a smartphone and everybody wants to be an influencer, they're taking their selfies everywhere. They don't notice anything else unless you walk between them and their camera. Then they get pissed off.
Mm.
Now, how many really great photos in state parks are squirrel photobombed?
A lot.
Or crow photobombed? Or eagle
Raccoons.
photobombed? Or raccoon photobombed?
Raccoons will literally pose for your camera if you're not paying attention.
Well, that's because that one's distracting you while the other one steals your camera.
Yeah.
Because my favorite one is
the monkeys at the Japanese steam baths who will steal your camera and go out into the water and take pictures.
Yes.
There are sometimes things in pictures that are occasionally a little more difficult to figure out, and that's the mystery hand.
Yeah.
Where, here's a picture of two people, but there's a third hand in here somewhere. And sometimes, clearly it came from a person off frame, and sometimes it's a little harder to tell where that is. Those are more fun to try to analyze, try to figure out, like, where did this come from? But I still love I took the picture and I swear that child wasn't there. Oh, you mean the picture in the park at the birthday
Where
party?
the children hang out? Yeah.
Well, now that we have cameras everywhere, what is it, the estimate now? The average person going to and from work is photographed at least 6 times every day. I don't even know if that estimate would be high enough at this point with all the traffic cameras and desk the little what are they called, dashboard cams and
I think we're getting closer to that scene in Minority Report after Tom Cruise gets the new eyes and he's walking through the mall and they're scanning it, so all these ads are popping up tailored to that person.
Right.
Feels like we're getting a little closer to that.
For sure. With all the Meta eyeglasses, it's going to happen so soon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't even want to talk about the Snapchat lenses.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I was about to say, isn't AI coming to eyeglasses?
I also just think that can't be good for your eyes long term.
Now?
Yeah. Well, in so many cases, you're absolutely right. It's not good for you. But
can you see ghosts with it?
Probably if you're in an area with ghosts, yeah, probably. Oh. I mean, how many times have we seen, and I'm going to go ahead and say they're glitches, and I know that just puts me in Allan's camp as a skeptic, but how many times have we seen the Snapchat filters or the Instagram filters where they show the shadow in the background all of a sudden has the dog face on there? And
picks up because the algorithm is trained to look for things that follow a certain pattern.
And humans aren't the only things that will experience pareidolia. Your digital things will find it just as much as you will because the pattern is still there.
But when we come back, can we talk about how the Xbox, the Kinect, finds spooky ghosts in your house?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And this is Skeptic versus Believer. As I'm sitting here with my co-conspirators, Brandon Olmsted, Alissa Diggs, Scott J. Carroll, and producer Max hanging out over there on the side. And I believe we have gotten up to, would it be digitally induced? I'm not sure what word to put here. Paranormal, assumption of the paranormal.
Ghosts? Question mark?
The ghosts want to play
You've always
Just
wanted
Dance.
to see your invisible friend from when you were 3.
No, that guy still owes me money.
Oh, somehow I don't doubt that, Brandon.
So this all started when Xbox first launched their Kinect.
Yes.
The Kinect had a special camera on it that used, essentially, it was a field of infrared dots that you could see if you had a night vision camera, but normally it was not in the visible spectrum. And it used those infrared dots and where the dots were interrupted to determine where your positioning was in the room, and it would interpret it into the dance game or whatever other game it was. It
was supposed to be a non-controller based VR.
Yes,
essentially, and it worked for the most part. I mean, it's like, it captured every move you did, in Dance Revolution and stuff like that, but it also had a little bit of a creep factor to it.
The core of it, when you looked at the footage, you could see that when it was mapping you, it was mapping your basic skeletal structure, just lines of where your body stuff was. Yeah. And occasionally, there'd be another skeleton in the room with you that wasn't actually there, popping up in the Kinect footage.
And in some cases, manipulating moves alongside you.
Mm-hmm. Now they have put that camera into a lot of ghost hunting toolkits.
Right.
And they'll have on and they'll watch when they do call-in responses or they're trying to talk to ghosts, and someone will be sitting there and all of a sudden a skeleton will appear. The Xbox skeleton, not like an actual skeleton.
And because of the fact that it's considered it's a passive form, when it was mapping the active character, it's green. It's green with yellow dots. When it does it and it's a passive, it is orange. So you could always it would always tell you, it's like, no, we're not accidentally catching your cat moving in the background. It was, a very static figure, and it was, it initiated a different color spectrum when it hit you. I don't know if it works that way as well with the ghost hunting equipment as the Xbox itself did.
Well, the camera itself, that whole software of the camera is mounted into just another camera.
Yeah,
sort of like a tablet that you can watch it on.
The ones I've seen anyway, they kind of look like those old school box flashlights.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and the issue I have with those when they're doing ghost hunts or paranormal hunts is the person watching it is getting so excited because they're seeing another skeleton, and they'll go, "Oh, the skeleton's touching your hand."
Yeah.
And then the person goes, "Oh, my hand feels cold."
Yeah.
There's a thing in psychology called priming.
Yeah.
And before you go into any ghost hunt or ghost adventure, you get the tour, you go through the house, somebody's telling you the story of everything that happened, and you are psychologically primed.
Right.
Now you are looking for these things to happen. You're looking for them to occur. So if somebody says, oh, Allie, there's a skeleton next to you and its hand's on your shoulder.
You're going to her pants.
Yeah.
I will immediately lose control of my bowels.
You're going to go, I feel tingly on my shoulder.
Yeah.
Because you've been primed for it.
Yeah.
If I didn't tell you and then afterwards asked you, hey, at any point, did your shoulder feel weird?
Yeah.
That would be a more scientific approach to it, and the priming wouldn't be a factor in it.
Interesting. Wouldn't it be best to just go in there without knowing what the story is?
Yes and no.
So if you go in there blind and you're just like, what, I'm going to go ghost hunting in this warehouse.
That would hurt their
feelings. Chances are, if you don't know the story, you don't know where to look.
Yeah, that's true.
So you've got to go in there completely. If you go in there completely blind, you also have
to look everywhere.
You are going to basically have yourself concentrating on every little thing.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but if you at least know kind of what it's like, all right, we've had people in this bar who feel cold spots over here. Well, the first thing you do is you look to see where the vents are.
Yeah. If there's a draft, if there was a door that got covered up.
Because when you go in, even the only way to truly do an investigation correctly is if you're going in to find other answers to what other people have felt. Mm-hmm. It's like if we see this reflection, and it's like in the mirror, but it's never behind us. It's like, well, you've got to look and see how based on the distance of the glass in the mirror, any kind of thing there can cause it to look like there's a World War II soldier standing behind you, but it's only because of how everything layers itself.
Yeah.
There's also something specifically with mirrors is called the Troxler effect.
Yep.
Essentially, if you're going to look into a mirror for an extended period of time, your mind basically blanks out your face because that's what it's used to seeing, and it goes into sort of a semi-dreamlike state, and it begins projecting images into the mirror
Your subconscious
of what you're looking at.
Yeah, your subconscious then starts filling in the blanks. And in more not, that's when you go, I saw a little girl running across the back. No, you didn't. You saw your brain is
your brain is so powerful.
Explain things that aren't there because of the fact that you are kind of going, there's got to be something.
You need to basically be Sherlock Holmes about it, and you have to use abductive reasoning, which is it's not this, it's not this, it's not this, which means it's most likely this. Which is weird because Conan Doyle himself was the exact opposite, which is a story potentially for another day.
Fascinating.
Well, we've kind of come around. It really comes down to how powerful is the mind, and what do you really want to see when you look in the mirror? And this is Skeptic versus Believer, and I'm sitting here with my co-conspirators, Brandon Olmsted, Alissa Diggs, Scott J. Carroll, and producer Max sitting over there. I'm Allan Gilbreth. And, you know, it's all about media, cameras, perception. What do you think? What do you think it is? What'd you think? What did you want to think it is? I think that is the biggest crux, honestly, of, you know, it without being primed. And this is coming from somebody that has worked with critters most of his life, one way or another. If something goes bump in the night, I do not think it is something dead. I am more worried about it being a raccoon, a possum, a squirrel.
I'm going to completely go the opposite direction. I hear a bump in the night, and I'm immediately thinking, dang it, that possum just died and fell down my wall. Same situation. It's still not spooky, but analytically, that's where my brain goes. Is I'm going to have to smell that for at least 6 weeks. I'm not tearing my walls down again. I've had my house rebuilt once. That's enough.
That was enough. All right. I go back to a cottage I was renting in Fairhope, Alabama. And everybody told me the cottage I had was the haunted one. Because there was some thing that flapped in the night. And, the cottage was, All right. Well, it was kind of funny. We came rolling into town. It was a work thing. So we left every weekend, came back every Sunday night. We come rolling back on a Sunday night. We get there about 11 o'clock at night or so. Open the door to the cottage. No lights are on or anything like that. Swing the door open. And sure enough, you get the feeling that you are not alone in this room. And in the darkness, you think you see or hear something moving, and it is not on the ground. It was airborne. And as I walked into the room, my vision kind of told me something is coming towards you. So I instinctively swung up a hand and grabbed the Nighthawk.
Oh my gosh.
Flying directly towards me.
There was an Edward Hopper painting flying towards you?
I'm telling you. Poor little bull bat. Apparently they lived in the chimney, and periodically somebody fell down the wrong way, and thus you had a night-coloured bird flapping around in your nightly cottage here. And I could go, I could see where somebody'd say there's a demon in the fireplace. Happily for the bird, I had sense enough not to turn it into bird pudding. And I think the bird was far more terrified than I was. And, walked outside and tossed it up in the air, and it disappeared into the night. And happily for me, there were at least 3 other witnesses. So, when you tell this story, there were at least 3 people that could go, yeah, Allan caught a bird.
With his bare hands. That's crazy.
I think that at the end of it, right, all of these stories, all the ghost stories, everything that happens, they all play an important part. Folklore has an important part in everything that we do. Right. It tells us where we came from, teaches us lessons, all of that. And personally, like all of these stories, I want so much to believe that so many of them are true. Yeah. But I've personally yet to have an experience to prove that. I'm open. I would be happy to be wrong.
Right.
But so many times there are ways it can be explained away.
Right.
And I would be the first one, if I've faced with something that I go, I genuinely cannot explain this, I genuinely do not know, I'd be the first one to go, I think that's a thing.
I get that too. And what's really bad is that there's so many people out there who will ascribe to the Hollywood theory. Well, the ghosts will only, they'll only show themselves to people who believe. No. The people who believe want to see something so badly that everything becomes a ghost.
Yeah.
Everything becomes Bigfoot. That's definitely Nessie. It's my pool. I don't know how she got there, but that's definitely Nessie. I find that it's more obvious when it's something you're like, no, this is not what's going on. When you're truly open to the unexplainable happening, is when you look at it more analytically, when you are looking at it from the scientific point of view of what this should be. And once you eliminate everything that it could be, the unbelievable is now possible.
There was a girl in my office that we shared with. She goes to sit down at her desk. She comes in, she pulls her chair out, she moves something, and she looks down and she sees her wallet on the ground. And she's like, I've been looking for this wallet for 3 days.
Yeah.
And my time working with you, Allan, I'm going to blame for this because I immediately stand up and I go, I walk over to her desk, I pull the chair out. The way the chair is set up, there is a break between the seat and the back and the metal bar that hooks the two.
And that's where the wallet
had fallen and was sitting on that bar. Noticed it. Yeah. And it wasn't until she pulled the chair out that the wallet fell.
It's because you don't think to look there.
Exactly. Yeah. She was thinking, did a ghost had my wallet?
Yeah.
And I was like, that would have been cool. But
I've got a weird story. And now people have told me for years that the upstairs of my grandparents' house was haunted. Now I've lived up there. My mom's lived up there. We've all taken our turns moving back to grandma's house and whatnot. I used to have a setup. I collected Sideshow Friday the 13th dolls, and I will call them dolls here because Action Figure doesn't do it justice. And I had one that was a room alarm that sat behind them. The number of times that I would come home and I would find that room alarm on the floor, and the only way it could have gotten past is if it had knocked those others down. And yet nothing else is disturbed. My autistic cousin was scared to go into to the upstairs area because there was a monster. He swore up and down there was a monster. There was something there. Mm-hmm. Now, he hyper focuses on things. So of course, I'm thinking it's a little kid. He's thinking monster. But that combined with the room alarm situation and my grandfather seeing a weird shadow, there's something new out there.